Travis here with Chaparral Motorsports, and we're back here in the service department. We're going to be doing an oil change on my 2007 CRF 450X. I have Tyson here. He's our rep for Liqui Moly, and he's going to be helping me out. Tyson, just give us a quick explanation as far as what Liqui Moly products we're going to be using on this oil change.
So first what we're going to do is we're going to put this engine flush shooter, which is power sport specific, in both sides of this bike, since it has a transmission side and a motor side. So we're gonna put one each in there, handles about 1,000 cc's each, let the bike run for 10 minutes, and then drain the oil and show you how much deposits and debris in that motor is gonna be coming out of it.
So this is called Liqui Moly Engine Flush Shooter. It's basically a detergent for your engine oil, correct?
Yes.
So engine oils are made with a minimal amount of detergent within them, because when they do heat up and you do tend to drain your oil, that detergent is supposed to help clean the engine cases up a little bit.
Yes.
This is a pure concentrate of that detergent that they put in the oils. So before you actually flush your motor with the old oil that's in it, you would add one of these in there. And that's gonna help really scrape the walls and almost clean your clutch up and get all the black grime and gunk which is
that builds up over time.
Yeah, and take it out. So when you do add fresh oil, you know that you're putting fresh oil in the motor and all the walls are clean at the same time.
Basically what this is doing is trying to keep, when you do brand new oil in the motor, you want to get all the contaminants out of the motor, because if you put new oil in the motor, those contaminants can contaminate that new oil right away, and it's basically just putting old oil back in.
So we're gonna start with the shooter to clean it out. Then we're gonna drain all the oil. We're gonna put some brand new 10W40, which is also by Liqui Moly. This is your off-road version of
off-road. This
oil.
is a full synthetic. It'll go on the clutch and motor side, so we're gonna put this in the bike.
Cool. And then after we get that all tied up, we're also putting a new oil filter in at the same time. We're gonna add some speed additive shooter to the gasoline, which this isn't going to increase horsepower. Don't think it's like any of those other fuel additives where you think you're gaining horsepower. This is helping the combustion within the motor, right?
Yes, it's basically atomizing the fuel. What that'll do is make sure the fuel is being burned at a better rate than what normal fuel will be burned at. So you'll be getting better throttle response, hopefully better fuel economy out of it, and just overall notice better performance in the bike.
Cool, so let's get started. So as far as my 450X goes, the motor is actually split. So that means the oil is on the engine side, and then there's also separate oil on the transmission side, versus your traditional manufacturers nowadays, Yamaha, Kawasaki, Suzuki. You basically put a whole liter of oil in the motor, and that oil is being ran with the transmission and the engine. Honda likes to do things different. So I thought this would be a great bike to show you guys an example as far as how an oil change goes. Like we just mentioned, we're gonna first start off with the Liqui Moly Engine Flush Shooter. Now, this will work with up to 1 to 2 liters. Since the Honda has split sides, we're just gonna put one in each side and then run the motor for 10 minutes, getting all that grime and the grunk off the cases, and then we'll drain it. So let's start. Okay, first things first, don't go removing the drain bolts just yet, because we have to add the Engine Flush Shooter. So take off your fill caps. The Honda has 2 fill caps, 1 on each side. I'm gonna start by removing this one. As I add the Engine Flush Shooter on the left side of the motor, Tyson here is gonna add it onto the right side. All right, so the engine flush shooter is added. We're gonna screw the fill caps back on for the time being. And then we're gonna get the motor started and we're gonna run it for 10 minutes. So as far as my 450X goes, both drain plugs are on the left-hand side of the bike. Reason being, you can keep the bike on its kickstand and throw the drain pan under and get it drained on the same side of the bike. So we're gonna pull the drain plug out of the engine side, and then we're also gonna pull the drain plug out of the transmission side, which is right back here. Let's start with the engine one. Wow. Look how, Look how dirty that oil is. Prior to this oil change, I had done a ride with Tyson actually, and we did about 60 miles down in Lake Elsinore, California. And I changed my oil right before that ride. So, you know, I probably wouldn't have planned to change my oil for another, probably another ride. That tells me a lot. That tells me that the Liqui Moly detergent, which is that engine flush shooter we put in there, it's really working, because I've never seen my oil this dirty after just riding once. I'll be honest with you. So Tyson, it looks like that detergent's working pretty well. Let's get the transmission side out and see how dirty it is on that side of the motor. I think one of the reasons Honda did a split engine, or split oil within the engine, is in case you did want to change your oil, you can keep the oil inside the engine side, because the clutch isn't making the oil really as dirty as it is on the transmission side. So that's Honda's concept. Maybe you can change the engine oil only once compared to changing it twice on the transmission side, keeping fresh oil, but geez, it looks like both sides are really dirty. Now that we got both drain plugs out, I'm gonna lean the bike over a little bit more just so we make sure we get everything out. So while the engine was running for 10 minutes and we had that engine flush shooter inside the motor, a good thing to do is to put the bike up on the stand and actually put it into gear. And if you're able to do that and run through the gears and pull the clutch in and out, that's gonna really help that shooter get in between your clutch system and clean out not just all the grime and grunk that are built up on the walls, but also a lot of the grime that's built within your clutch, because your clutch tends to make your engine oil the dirtiest. Of all the mechanisms within your motor, the clutch seems to really make that oil go bad.
Yeah.
So check this out. I have about 60 miles from my last oil change. Personally, I probably wouldn't have changed my oil this soon, because I changed my oil about 150 miles on this bike. Around 3 to 4 hours of running time. This is really impressive. And this is showing me that that engine flush shooter is really working, because I put brand new oil in. I didn't put dirty oil back into the bike. And this looks like it's been running for 300 or 400 miles, Tyson.
Yeah.
Wow, impressive. All right, so now that we have the oil drained, we're gonna get the drain plugs back into the bike and add the new Liqui Moly off-road 10W40 oil. Okay, before we get started on the oil, I just wanna tell you guys a quick reminder, hit the subscribe button down below. Also give us a thumbs up, because we gotta keep making videos like this. All right, Tyson, so Liqui Moly offers a whole bunch of different types of oil. This is their off-road version of oil, right?
Yes, this is the off-road white label full synthetic 1040.
And my Honda requires a 10W40 to go in the motor. The Liqui Moly reps were actually just explaining to us, it's really important to stay within these numbers as far as what your manual is asking you to put into your motor. If you start going off of different weights, it may not lubricate your motor properly, or it may not lubricate it in specific areas that the specific oil needs to get to. So go ahead and break this open, Tyson. I'm gonna pull these two 8mm bolts off for the oil filter. Be sure not to lose your oil filter spring. So check that out, guys. That's what color the filter looked like when I first put it in the bike. And here's a new filter. So this filter actually was brand new when I put it in the bike. I did about 60 miles, which this is pretty surprising to me that my filter gets this dirty. This is what color it was when I first put it in. So just off of that note, it's really important to change your oil filter when you're changing your oil. If you're down here and you're doing the oil change, it takes an extra 10 to 15 seconds to pull these bolts out, and then another 10 to 15 seconds to throw it back in. A lot of guys don't know what side the spring goes on. So just so you guys have a peace of mind, the spring is always going to sit in the oil filter freely. This rubber gasket that's built into the oil filter, it's actually going to fit and seal right around this spout on the oil filter cap. So that's just a quick little tip. Your spring's going to sit in here and in there, like so. Here, here. And then what we'll do is we'll tighten them down evenly. Just go back and forth. The oil filter has been replaced with a new oil filter. We're going to pull these fill caps back off, which as far as the 450X go, there's a fill cap on both sides. The drain bolts are what's on the same side, which is the left. So pull these back off. Refer to your manual as far as how many cc's go into your motor. Fill it up with Liqui Moly. Put the caps back on and start her up, ready to ride. Okay, Tyson's gonna fill our ratio right cup up to the specific amount of oil I need for my engine, which one side calls for 670 cc's, so we're gonna stop right there at 500, and then we'll put an additional of 170 back in there. So as I'm filling this oil up, head to shapmoto.com. There's a ton of Liqui Moly product on there. Or come on into the store and pick some up for yourself. It's a great brand, and like I mentioned, it's made in Germany. Now that the oil's been added and the oil filler plugs are back installed, we're basically ready to ride. But one last step before we do get out on the trail, we're gonna add a little bit of the fuel additive shooter. Tyson, do you have that with you?
I do.
Now just explain this one more time as far as what it does.
So the speed additive shooter atomizes your fuel, and what this does is it gets better throttle response, better fuel economy, and basically overall performance when you're riding the bike. It's recommended to run this for every 1 to 2 gallons. That's pretty strict. You don't want to over add or under add this product into the fuel.
So you said one of these will work with 1 to 2 gallons of fuel.
1 to 2 gallons.
And you just put it in with your 91?
Yeah, what I actually recommend is if you are running 91 pump gas, 87 pump gas, just get a empty jug, fuel.
5 gallon jug?
A 5 gallon fuel jug, and put it in 2 of these into 1 fuel jug of 4 gallons.
Cool. Right on. So we're going to get that installed into here. I know I have 2 gallons of fuel in my gas tank, so we'll be okay to add this entire 80 milliliters. If you're a KTM EXC guy, I've heard that this stuff changes your life when it comes to the combustion of your motor. KTM EXCs, especially the ones that are here in California, they can be somewhat bogged down because of our emission rules. And this really helps with the combustion as far as when you're giving gas and it first lights the motor up. Right, Tyson? I mean,
yeah, basically on the 500 EXCs, they have a problem where they flame out from getting too hot in tight areas because of the emissions on the bike. So if you put this in the EXC, I've heard that most guys have said that their flameouts have been not as current as before. The bike actually, when it's hot and in tight sections, it'll actually keep the bike from stalling out.
So there you go. You heard it from Tyson, who has a 500 EXC himself. Let's get it added to my fuel tank. Once that's added, we can go out to the trail and ride. And I really like the way that Liqui Moly takes the time to make their product to where you could essentially pour it straight out of the bottle. A lot of their openings and their spouts are somewhat small, so it fits into the openings of most things on dirt bikes. Their oil, for instance, their oil has a pop-off spout. So if you do happen to forget a funnel or a ratio right, you could pour the oil right out of that Liqui Moly gallon jug. Well, thanks, Tyson. I think the bike's ready to go. It's got some fresh oil in it, new oil filter, some speed additive. Where to next?
The trails.
The trails. Hey, I said it once before, don't forget to subscribe, give us a thumbs up for this video, and leave a comment down below if you want us to do an installation video on any type of product or how to. I'm here for you guys. I'm Travis with Chaparral Motorsports. This is Tyson, our MTA and Liqui Moly rep. Until then, we'll see you guys next time.